Right. Yeah. Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. And this has been an exciting journey, and I've said this before, a journey which is longer than the life of my daughter. My daughter is 2.5 years old. This Bible study has been longer than 2.5 years. And if we finish Song of Solomon, we just have 5 Old Testament books left. And each time we met on a monthly basis in different locations, ultimately we moved into this place, but in different locations, what we have done is try to study the Bible one book at a time. Now, Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. Okay, studying every word that proceeds from the mouth of God, 66 books in the Bible, several words and verses and chapters, 1,189 chapters to be precise. Maybe next to impossible, but not impossible. But let's start with at least the basic unit of the Bible, 66 books. So with that viewpoint, as the Lord led me to, I started this Bible study. I'm encouraged. So today we have one of the largest crowds that we ever had for our Bible study. Obviously one of the reasons is we are studying the Song of Songs. Okay, so let's do it. Okay, it's one of the 2 books of the Bible without God's name. Which is the other book? Esther. Okay, so it's one of the 2 books in the Bible, a library of 66 books without God's name. And it's a book. I remember preaching in Youth Alive or Summer for Jesus, 2005. I think I'm talking about this because several years after this event happened, in 2009 I believe, a girl walked up to me after Sunday service in the AG church, and she reminded me of this illustration that I used. I was surprised, and I would like to begin with that. When I was preaching in 2005, I was talking about a new translation of the Bible called New Living Translation. It was new then, it's not new anymore. And I said, okay, if I read the King James Version and if I quoted Song of Solomon 115, where it says, Song of Solomon 115, it says in the King James Version or the New King James Version says, I look at my wife as a man and I look at her and say, your eyes are your eyes are doves. Maybe you should give me a stare or a blank look. But if I quote to her from Song of Solomon 115 from the New Living Translation, if I say to her, your eyes are soft like doves, then she would give me a kiss. And then I said, if I can get one kiss from my wife, I'd rather use the New Living Translation, not the King James Version. That's how I remember preaching a message on reading the Bible. I was promoting a modern translation of the Bible. And that particular girl remembered that story. And I want to begin with that story. And I don't know what version of the Bible you use, but our aim today is to get the gist of the message of the book of Song of Songs. And we're going to use the acronym Song of Songs, SONGOF, SONGS, as an acronym, for an outline of this message. Okay, now let's go do it fast because I want to finish in 60 minutes, 7:15. I would like to close by 8:15. And we're also recording this message. Maybe I believe this will be useful for our audience which is not here as well. Okay, yes, superlatives recording Song of Songs. Superlatives recording Song of Songs. Look at the first verse of this book. Can you read that, please? You will do.
Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth, for your love is better than wine.
I believe the book starts earlier than that. Okay. I know we all want to go to the kiss.
Okay. Yeah, the Song of Solomon is a love song written by Solomon.
No, I think that's a commentary. Okay, it says the Song of Songs, which is Solomon. Have you seen that?
Okay.
The Song of Songs, which is Solomon. Song of Songs. And the moment I read that phrase, Song of Songs, my mind races to the cricket field. My mind races to what happened in 1985 when India went to Australia. This was the Benson and Hedges World Series. And India, at that point in time, they were the world champions, 1983 world champions. Some of my uncles remember the final when India beat West Indies, even though they made just 183 runs in 60 overs. 183 runs in 60 overs. And India won that final. They became world champions. And shortly after that, and 2 years after that, they went to Australia to play Benson and Hedges series. It was, 7 test playing nations were there in that one-day series. And in the final, India beat Pakistan And one Indian had a title of Champion of Champions. Do you know what his name was?
Ravi Shastri.
Ravi Shastri, yes. Ravi Shastri, for his all-round performance, good batting, he was a very slow opener. Exactly the opposite of Sehwag. Okay, but he did score some crucial 50s, and then he bowled well. He's a left-arm spinner in the mold of Murali Karthik, left-arm spinner. And for his all-round performance, he got the title Champion of Champions. He won the Audi car. Those days nobody, only the rich and the famous, really famous, not the rich and the famous, rich and the really famous, they drove Audi cars. He got that award. Okay, he was called the Champion of Champions, meaning man of the series. So this book, Song of Solomon, okay, is called the Song of Songs, because this is the best love poem which Solomon wrote. The best love poem Solomon wrote. If you look at 1 Kings 4:32, Solomon authored 1 Kings chapter 4 verse 32, authored close to 1,005 songs. A little more than the number of wives that he had. Wives plus concubines. Okay, so maybe he wrote one poem for each of his wife, and then maybe he was planning to add a few more. Okay, we'll talk about that later. Okay, Song of Songs. About 1,000, 1 Kings 4:32, about 1,005 songs of those 1,005 love songs, this was the best song. And this reminds me of other phrases like that in the Bible. We have the phrase for Jesus, King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. What is that about? It is a statement of Jesus' uniqueness. It's a reminder of Acts 4:12. Salvation is found in no one else. Salvation is found in no one else apart from Jesus. There is no name found under heaven, above earth, east or west, anywhere apart from Jesus to be saved. The uniqueness of Jesus. It's a reminder of John 14:6. Jesus' statement, I am the way, the truth and the life. No one comes to God except through me. Jesus is unique. He's the best. He's when it comes to saviors, it's like you have two queues. Okay, you have only two queues. Okay, Jesus is there, and behind him no one else. The other queue, all the rest of the guys are there. And the other, in fact, you only have two queues: sinners and non-sinners. In the non-sinners queue, there's only one person, because there's only one person who's lived on this earth without committing a single sin, and that is Jesus. And to be a savior, you need to be first sinless yourself, and only Jesus qualified. So he's a savior of saviors, King of kings, Lord of lords, Champion of champions. And now we are talking about Song of Songs. Let's go quickly now. S, superlatives recording Song of Songs. And then Open Sex Talk Song of Songs. Open Sex Talk Song of Songs. Now I remember as a student of Allahabad Agriculture Institute, I was doing my BTech Agriculture Institute there. For a college festival, we went to IIT Kharagpur, which was not very far away. Both the cities were in UP. And this was a student festival, and then we had a lot of cultural events, and we had a debate competition which I took part in, extempo competition. I went to IIT Kanpur, and then in the extempo competition, I memorized, I recited one of Jimmy Swaggart's messages, and I got third prize in that. That's one of my first exposure to real public speaking in a secular audience. And one of the things that happened in the evenings was they had Ramo Fernandez, the musician, and he was singing to a packed crowd, and guys some of them were high on alcohol, and he said, we Indians don't talk about sex. He was promoting condoms that evening, college fest, and he said, we Indians don't talk about sex, we only produce babies. But you know what? The Bible talks about sex openly, and the book Song of Solomon is really blunt and bold on this subject. Now, for example, look at this, Song of Solomon 1:13. Look at this. Can we read that? Okay, shall I? Okay, yes.
The fig trees are budding.
Okay.
The grapevines are in blossom. How delicious they smell.
Yes. 1:13. Okay, I will read that. My beloved, Song of Solomon 1, chapter 1, 13th verse. My beloved to me is like a sachet of myrrh that lies between my breasts. Can you imagine? Open talk. My lover is between my breasts. That's what the writer says. And then in chapter 2 verse 6, there is a talk of a sex technique. Okay, chapter 2 verse 6, we will come to that in a moment. Okay, his left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. If you come to me for counseling as man and wife, I can even explain it to you even more graphically. That is a sex technique. Chapter 2 verse 6. I remember, as a young boy, I read James Dobson's book. I do not know what the title was. And then as a young boy, maybe 12 or 13, I'm glad I learned about sex from a very good Bible-believing medical doctor, very famous in the United States. And then he wrote this about, he defined sex. As an 11-year-old boy, I read that with wide-eyed imagination, but that was good stuff. He said when sex is when two people, a man and a woman, remove all their clothes and they move in and out and there's a tingling feeling and all that. As an 11-year-old boy, I thought this is good stuff, but that's there in the Bible. You find open sex talk in the book of Song of Solomon. And then it's not just about talking about women, the sexual parts of women. For example, look at 5th chapter and verse 1. Okay, 5th chapter verse 1. I'll try and do most of the reading today because some of you may be embarrassed to read this. Okay, but if you want to read it, no problem. You can interrupt me. Okay, chapter 5 verse 1. I come to my garden, my sister, my bride. I gathered my myrrh with my spice. I ate my honeycomb with my honey. I drank my wine with my milk. I mean, you don't need an Old Testament scholar from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary in the United States to say that my milk means his semen. He's using poetic language to talk about his semen. And see, it was not just written in the book. Now, this book was one of the 5 books which the Jewish people read in all their popular feasts. Okay, they read Ruth, they read Esther, they read Ecclesiastes, and they read Lamentations, and they read Song of Songs. So this was meant for public reading. So what am I saying? There will be an occasion when you will have to do open sex talk. Open sex talk, and I do that all the time. I tell young people, I want young people, if the media has the audacity to, paint condom ads all over the city and say, wear condoms and have safe sex. Now I want to talk about safe sex. I will be talking about that in a moment. We will really see whether safe sex is safe sex or not. We need to openly talk. Before when you get married, when you have a child, when you have a boy and girl, there must be a day when you call your children and talk to them about sex before they hear about sex from the wrong people. Okay, so open sex talk, Song of Songs. Number 3, SON. Number 1 in your life, talking about Song of Songs. Number 1 in your life. Okay, here is the key. We are coming to the core of the message of Song of Songs. How do you make a romantic relationship work? You must keep your partner number 1 in your life. Okay, this again after God, but I'm talking about really, this book is really about a man-woman relationship. Number 1 in your life position recommending Song of Songs. Now the world is talking about Prabhudeva and Nayanthara. You know why? Prabhudeva, after having married a woman who had to face a lot of opposition to marry him, and then born apparently 3 children, and the process became shapeless and formless and whatless, I don't know, odorless. I don't know. Okay, you can add all the lesses. And then she suddenly meets this beautiful girl from a Christian family, with glowing skin, from the land of the gods, Kerala, Nayanthara. And then they both fall in love with each other. And it's the talk of Kollywood, the most talked about romance in Kollywood. And no longer, the woman, Prabhudeva married, she is no longer number 1 in his life. And somebody else took that position. Now, what the book of Song of Songs says is, in a romantic relationship, the boy should be number 1 for the girl should be number 1 for the boy. It's very, very clear. Look at Song of Songs 5:15. Song of Songs 5:15. Okay. Okay, in the NLT, there's a phrase which says, none can rival him. His appearance is like the Lebanon. You know something about Lebanon? Okay, he's talking about the trees of Lebanon. Trees of Lebanon. There are some trees in Lebanon that will grow as tall as 120 feet. So which means the boy for the girl is tall, really tall. It's not just physical stature. He is high. There may be millions of men in this world, but my boy, the boy I'm going to marry, he's the tallest. Nobody is like him. Nobody is like him. And then look at chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. Okay, chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. As a lily among the brambles, so is my love among young women. Lily among the brambles, lily among the thorns. No, the woman, the man says to the girl, says about the girl, for him, in an assembly of thorns, there is only one beautiful white flower, the lily. All the rest are like thorns when it comes to romantic relationship. It's not like he has one in the office, one in the colony, and one at home. One big, as you say in Tamil, one or a periya veedu or a chinna veedu. Others are thorns. Others can't even come near that relationship. No comparison. There is only one lily and the rest are thorns. Unique relationship. Number one to each other. That's why I'm just coming out of the marriage, which I witnessed, marriage of my sister. Yes, I have a sister who was 11 years younger to me. She got married on Friday, and one of the things I was paying attention to is the vote they took. They took my sister and her husband. Forsaking all others is important part of the oath. Forsaking all others. It's not just I love you, because I love you has become as common as how are you, this word. But forsaking all others, I love you. And that's why I'm bringing a related topic. That's why watching porn is wrong. And though it's very easy to do that. And then I was following a story from Open magazine. How many of you have seen Open magazine? It's a different news magazine that's come out recently, like challenging Outlook and India Today and The Week. There's a new news magazine called The Open, and these guys had a lead story on porn watching, and then they said the cover story was porn forever. And they said there was a time when in India, when all these nude pictures were very hard to get, and you had to really go hunting for it, and you had to hide it. And they talked about huge CDs, tapes, and you had to bury in some garden somewhere after you watched them and all that. But now it's all a click away. And then they said young men who get into porn watching, they can't seem to get out of it even after they get married. And they talked about executives who travel to the States, and then they finish all the business sitting in some star hotel in New York City or Detroit or somewhere, and after the business is over, they all pull up their laptops and open it, and they start watching porn. And then they said, and the article was talking about so many thousands of websites which are pornographic in nature. But I want to tell you something. The Word of God is very clear, especially in the book of Song of Songs, why porn watching is a sin against God's eyes. Look at Song of Songs, chapter 8 and verse 10. Chapter 8 and verse 10. Okay. In fact, I should have talked about chapter 8 in my second point, open sex talk, Song of Songs. In fact, in Song of Songs, I might get stoned for making this observation that there's a talk of three breasts: the mother's breast, the young sister's breast, and the bride's breast. And then here's one verse where we talk about the very subject, okay, which is the center of porn watching. Okay, I was a wall, my breasts were like towers. Then I was in his eyes as one who finds peace. This is English Standard Version. Song of Songs 8:10. The girl is speaking, which, in other words, my breasts brought about a peace in his eyes or in his heart. And talk to any porn watcher. He'll talk about that shattering of peace that invariably happens every time he or she or you or I watch porn. That's the universal experience that comes to everybody. You might try to ignore it, you might try to bury it, you might try to pretend as if it doesn't exist, but it exists. It is there. The first thing that happens when you watch porn is your peace goes away, and that's exactly what this verse is talking about. when can you watch somebody naked? When can you watch somebody's breast? When can you watch somebody topless? And you don't lose your peace when you watch the nakedness of your life partner, who is actually your life partner, when you're watching that nakedness. Not will be life partner. I mean, the marriage in Song of Songs gets over in end of 3rd chapter. End of 3rd chapter, on the day of wedding, verse 11, 3:11, on the day of his wedding, on the days of the gladness of his heart. And all this happens after the wedding. And then the 8th chapter talks about, they are enjoying each other's nakedness. Okay. Which means, why is porn wrong? If you think some X, Y, or Z can satisfy your sexual desires, no longer is your life partner whom God has given you number one in your life. Number one teacher recommending Song of Songs. I can go on and on. Okay, and then the clincher for this is, chapter 8 and verse 6. Chapter 8 verse 6 it says, can you read that please? Chapter 8 verse 6.
Set me as a seal upon your heart.
Set me as a seal upon your heart.
As a seal upon your arm.
Yes.
For love is as strong as death.
Love is as strong as death. That's what we say in our wedding vows. For better or worse, till death do us part. I love you with every beat in my heart. Till death do us part. That's why you are number one in my life. This is something which is not only a deep love, but a long love. It's going deep and it's long. Now, deep, number one, no other relationship can compare with that. And it's also long. Alright. Third, S-O-N-G. Ohaliba, behavior, condemning Song of Songs. Ohaliba, behavior, condemning Song of Songs. Now, some of you are blinking. You don't know, you really can't follow what I'm talking about. Look at Ezekiel chapter 23. Then there we read about two women, Ohala and Ohaliba. Those familiar with my writing ministry, preaching ministry, are familiar with these two characters. Ohala and Ohaliba. Ezekiel 23. Have you seen that? Okay. Story of two sisters. Okay, it's actually the story of Israel and Judah, but it's beautifully put in the form of a story of two young girls, Ohala and Ohaliba. What did they do? Look at verse 3. They played the whore in Egypt. 23:3 of Ezekiel. They played the whore in the youth, where their breasts were pressed and the virgin bosoms handled. God's word. Jeyaraj didn't put it there. Not it, your grandfather put it. No, your grandfather didn't put it there. It's there in God's words. No, and the same thing, the same sense. Now these women allow the men to touch their upper body. That same behavior is condemned in a positive way. The message is positive in Song of Songs. In chapter 2 verse 7. Look at what is chapter 2 verse 7 of Song of Songs. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, by the gazelles or the doors of the field, that you stir not up or awaken love until it pleases. Can you read it from different versions? Just that phrase. Do not awaken love until the time is right. NLT, okay?
Until it so desires.
Until it so desires. Anybody? Any other version?
Until it pleases.
Until it pleases. Until it pleases. Okay. Whatever may be a version, but and it's the same phrase is there in chapter 3 verse 5. Same phrase. Chapter 3 verse 5. The same phrase is there, chapter 8 verse 14. 3 times. It is a caution against premature arousal of sexual passions. Premature arousal of sexual passions. And the context is physical intimacy. Now it says, chapter 2 verse 6, his right hand is under my head and his left hand is under my head, his right hand embraces me. Yes, that's a sex technique. It's actually a method of having sex without really penetration of the male organ into the female organ. Okay, now I'm explaining that. It is actually, as the world calls it, it is outer course. It's not intercourse, but outer course. But it's popular. Bill Clinton made it very popular some years ago. That's what he did with Monica Lewinsky. They didn't have actual sex, but they did everything else. Fondling her breast was a major part of it. But that's the behavior which Song of Solomon says, yes, that's good, but only if it's between a husband and a wife. And it's beautiful. It's, chapter 7 verse 3. Chapter 7 verse 3, look at it. Now it says here, chapter 7 verse 3, your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Now can you imagine what is the comparison between a breast of a girl and a deer, a gazelle, or a fawn, or a deer? What's the comparison? The comparison is here. It is, when you have a fluffy deer there in front of you, you want to stroke it, you want to fondle it because of it's like your puppy dog. The same comparison. And I don't want to complete my sentence. You know what I'm talking about. Stroking of breasts of a woman who is not your wife is a sin against God. And what's happening in Song of Songs is in the context of a man and a woman. And the same thing is there in chapter 4 verse 5. The same thing. Chapter 4 verse 5, your two breasts are like two fawns. Again, a deer, the twins of a gazelle that graze among the lilies. That's the context. And now, how do you avoid this behavior? Song of Solomon talks about it. Because in this present world, it's so easy to do it. All you need is a locked car and a tinted glass to do this. It's so easy. How do you do it? Look at chapter 3, verses 1 to 4. And look at how this couple, they had some rules around them. Chapter 3, I'm going to read from verse 1. Chapter 3, verse 1. On my bed by night, I sought him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. The boy is looking for the girl. I rise now, I go to the city, in the streets, in the squares. I will seek him whom my soul loves. I sought him, but found him not. She's searching, but the boy is not there. The watchman found me as they went out to the city. And she asked him, have you seen him whom my soul loves? And she's not able to find him. And then look at verse 4. Scarcely had I passed them when I found him whom my soul loves. They are meeting after a long time. So where do you think they would like to, they would want to meet? Now if you assume that this is written in a chronological order, they're getting married in verse 11. Chapter 3 verse 11. This is verse 4. Where do you think they like to meet? They have been away from each other for long, so they like to meet. Where do they which is a good place to meet? I held him, verse 4, and would not let him go until I brought him into my mother's house. How unromantic. How unromantic. To my mother's house. Why don't you lock yourself in some door? Why don't you book a room for yourself in a 5-star hotel and in a suite? Why don't you go for a long car drive with all the glasses up? Mother's house. And that's why I remember listening to a message by Dr. Ravi Zacharias. Isaac, take you Rebecca. Some of you have listened to that. And he talks about his days of courtship with his wife, with a girl who later became his wife. His wife is from Canada, from the country of Canada. Some of you know that. And he says whenever they met, it was either at his place, his house, or her house. And he says, I know that's old-fashioned, unromantic, but that's how it is. Or it is in a place where others can have access to, not behind closed doors. So if you have this cardinal rule, then you'll be out of trouble. And that's what Billy Graham, my great preaching hero, did. When he started becoming popular, he said, I will never meet alone with any woman in locked spaces, apart from my wife. When he was preaching in Arkansas, Billy Graham, Hillary Clinton wanted to meet him. She wanted to have a private conversation with him, and Billy Graham told her, I don't have private conversations with pretty ladies. And he said, we will sit in the restaurant and we can talk in that restaurant, sit in the middle of the restaurant and talk. We can still have a private conversation sitting in the middle of the restaurant, but others can see us talking. Ohaliba behavior condemning Book of Song of Songs. S-O-N-G, S-O-N, S-O, okay. S-O-N. Okay, I got the. Okay, let's go to the. Which letter should I go now? G?
G.
Okay. G, right?
G. Yes.
Okay. Gutsy girl. Story recording Song of Songs. Gutsy girl. Okay, this girl we are talking about, the heroine, she's a gutsy girl. Gutsy girl. You know why? Okay, look at chapter 1, verse 5. I am very dark but lovely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. She's a girl who became dark. You know why she became dark? Because if you read the whole story, you'll understand. Now, you must do a little bit of reading through between the lines. Her father apparently passed away, and she had brothers, and it's a large family. And as a eldest daughter, it doesn't clearly say that she's the eldest daughter, but she took responsibility. She started working to support the family, and she had to spend long hours under the sun working in the vineyard. As a result, her skin became tanned. Yeah, I know now it's, I know at least some part of the world recognizes bronze skin or whitish complexion as something to be desired. But Israel was much like much like us, like, because even in India, because of you can say this by the way these fairness skin lotions are selling. Fairness skin lotions are selling. Israel, in Israel's time, fair skin was looked up as being beautiful, dark skin as not so beautiful. But this woman had the guts to actually allow the sun to bake her skin so that she could support her family. Here was a girl who was focused at her work. Now I want to tell you something, that maybe the time when you will get the girl, boy that God has for you will come when you are already doing what you're called to do. Job, focus on it. Studies, focus on it. Ministry, focus on it. Now, I know some people who go to every meeting, who do everything in their day focused on finding a life partner. Everything, every single act. Why do they go to the meeting? Because they want to check if there are some suitable boys or girls. Why do they go to church? Same reason. Why do they open the internet? Same reason. Everything that they do. I was talking to a guy who said, I'm meeting different pastors every Sunday evening so that I can find a suitable life partner. I mean, I know it's important to find a good life partner and do research on that, but it's more important to be focused on what God has called you to do. This girl knew that dad was gone, the brothers were probably irresponsible, and she didn't mind going to the field and working hard. And not only that, she's a gutsy girl, so she's a brave girl. And she's a brave girl, and I must say this because she refused to become the 61st wife of Solomon. Look at chapter 6 verse 8. Okay, chapter 6 verse 8. There are 60 queens and 80 concubines and virgins without number. The text is not clear and there are many views about this. Chapter 6 verse 8. Do you see that? 60 queens and 80 concubines. So that was Solomon's present score. We have in a one-day match, they have an equation. Time of writing, 80, batting, 60 batting and 80 batting. 60 batting when it comes to wives' list, 80 batting when it comes to concubines' list. And no, I don't have the time to show you all the possible ways why I'm narrating the story this way. But the crux of the story is Solomon wanted to. Now Solomon took long rides in his kingdom. He saw this beautiful girl, a tan complexion, the Naomi Campbell of the Bible, working in the field, and she suddenly thought she can become his 61st wife, but she refused. Her love was for the shepherd boy who loved her truly. So even if the king was calling him for adultery, this woman said, no, gutsy girl. Maybe your boss is suggesting to you that if you sleep with him the weekend, he will give you a promotion. Will you emulate the heroine of the book of Song of Songs and say, no, thank you? That's the girl, S-O-N-G. And we have O, Song of Solomon. Song of Solomon. O. Orgasm for women, recommending Song of Songs. This is getting blunt here, this is getting bold. Orgasm for women, recommending Song of Songs. Now, Indian men have been brought up like this. I was talking to a girl, she was describing how one of her cousins got married and they sent in the girl to the guy, first night. And the elders advised the girl, just do what he wants. It's on my email, I read it. Just do what he wants. That's how the world thinks. That's how our elders think. But you know what the Bible in Song of Songs talks about? Orgasm for women, recommending Song of Songs. In the book of Song of Songs, it talks about this real sexual desires of women. The world talks about men's sexual desires, but the book of Song of Songs talks about the real sexual desires a woman will have, and she has every right to fulfill those desires within the boundaries of marriage, and husbands better be aware of it. Husbands better be aware of it. Chapter 8 verse 5. Chapter 8 verse 5. It says there, who is that coming from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? Under the apple tree I awakened you. There your mother was in labor with you. I awakened you. Chapter 4 verse 16. Awake, O north wind. Come, O south wind. Blow up on my garden. Let its spices flow. Using poetic language, she's asking for sex. Blow upon my garden, her body. Let him come into his garden and eat his choicest fruits. I think that's the NLT. 4:16, second part. Let him come into his garden. I am his garden. And let him eat his choicest fruits. Chapter 8 verse 2. Here is a woman who wants to be fondled. The wife who wants to be fondled. He says, if I found you outside, I would kiss you, and none would despise me. I would lead you and bring you to the house of my mother, she who used to teach me. I would give you spiced wine to drink, the juice of my pomegranate. The pomegranate doesn't mean pomegranate there. You can complete the sentence for yourself. I will give you my pomegranate. I mean, you read the book of Song of Songs, I leave it up to you, 8 chapters, you would find there are places where the woman initiated sex, which means they too have desires. You must be aware of that. You must be aware of that. Orgasm for women, recommending book of Song of Songs. Songof. Okay, let me go to the F of. Okay, foxes, fruits, fields, talking about Song of Songs. Foxes, fruits, and fields, talking about Song of Songs. Now, I'm sure, how many of you have heard your pastor preaching from the book of Song of Songs? Yeah, a lot of, never? Sorry. In fact, yes. In fact, it's not just about sex, the book of Song of Songs. In fact, we can learn other lessons there. But we should not have stupid, our interpretation should not be stupid. For example, there was a commentary, there was this person who read chapter 1 and verse 13, okay? My beloved to me is a sachet of myrrh and that lies between my breasts. He read that and he said, my breast means Old Testament and New Testament. Not such stupid interpretation. But sensible interpretation. Foxes, look at chapter 2 verse 15. This is something which we can identify with our spiritual life. Chapter 2 verse 15. Catch the foxes for us. The little foxes that spoil the vineyard. Here is a woman talking about her vineyard work. She grows a grape garden. It's a vineyard. And she says, catch the little foxes which come to my vineyard to spoil it. In fact, if you know something about foxes just love grapes, not the ripened grapes, but the little grapes. Grapes that come once the flower becomes a fruit. The raw grapes. Foxes just love it, and they come and hunt in the vineyards. And she says, catch the little foxes. Maybe there are little foxes in your life. It's just your temper. The temper in your life is a little fox. You're not working on it. You know you have that weakness, but you're not working on your nature of being short-tempered. But that little fox will soon eat away your vineyard. Maybe your little fox is procrastination. You know, you have good intention, but those intentions never become an action until eons. You know, after many days, after many opportunities, finally you make a chance. And you're not like Suresh Raina. You get a chance of a test debut, you don't grab it, and you don't use. Raina used the first test to cement his place in the Indian test team. You're not, because he doesn't believe in procrastination. He's not like Jeyaraj, 35 tests and still not sure of being in his place. You go grab opportunity. Now, I don't know what your little fox is. Okay, foxes, fruits. Okay, fruits. In fact, you find in chapter 2 it talks about apples. Chapter 7 and 7 talks about dates. Chapter 7:13, the rarest fruits. And then chapter 8:2, I just mentioned it, my sweet pomegranate. Now, here is a writer who is a very skillful writer. Now, he is using imagery. In fact, Israel is still an agricultural nation. Do you know that? It's one of the world's leading agricultural based economies in the whole world. So, writing to an audience which are familiar with agricultural products, here is a writer, Solomon, using agricultural imageries. Now, how do you communicate with people? Do you communicate relevantly? That's why I talk about cricket. That's why I talk about these movie stars. It's all incomplete. All a desperate attempt to somehow communicate God's word to my generation. Okay, foxes, fruits, fields, talking about Song of Songs. Alright. O-F. And then we come back to the S again. Sex before marriage, burning, Song of banning, Song of Songs. Chapter 4 verse 12 is a classic verse to preserve your virginity till the night of your wedding. Chapter 4 verse 12. If Acts 4:12 is important, Song of Song 4:12 is important. Acts 4:12 is about Jesus being the only way for salvation, only name for salvation. Acts 4:12. Song of Songs 4:12 talks about how you must preserve your virginity till your night of your wedding. Chapter 4 verse 12. A garden locked is my sister, my bride. A spring locked, a fountain sealed. It's a poetic way of saying that here is a garden. Garden is a body. Our body is locked. In her body she has so many enticing fruits, but that's locked, preserved. Same thing, chapter 8 verse 8 and 9. Chapter 8 verse 8 and 9. Chapter 8 verse 8 and 9. Okay, it says, we have a little sister, she had no breasts. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she is spoken for? On the day when, if she's a wall, we'll build on her a battlement of silver. But if she's a door, we will enclose her with boards of cedar. Are you a wall or a door? A wall means, you're always on the caution. You don't want a person of the opposite sex to treat your body with contempt. You're protecting yourself. You have a wall. You have your defenses up. Now this, just today in Deccan Chronicle, I read about how, in parties they spice, what's the word they use? Spike. Okay, thank you. They spike the drink and give it to the girl, and the girl loses consciousness, and they take nude pictures of the girl, or even rape her. So when the girl is spiked, her walls come crashing down. We saw that in this test, Colombo test. Rahul, the wall Dravid, he defended the ball. It was a classic Rahul Dravid defense, but the ball popped back and hit his stump. The defense of Rahul Dravid was crumbling. Maybe that's true in your sexual life. I do not know how many times your walls have crumbled. But the Bible recommends that you be a wall, not a door. Door is like anybody is welcome to do anything they want with my body. We have girls like that. We have guys like that. It's my prayer that none of you will be like that. It's reserved for the one I love on the night of our wedding. Sex before marriage, banning. Song of Songs. Now, I think I've mentioned this many times, but I'll mention it again. The world says wear a condom and have safe sex. But the AIDS virus is 450 times smaller than the male sperm. Many married couples don't use condoms as a reliable way of family planning, because sometimes the male sperm goes through the condom and makes the woman pregnant. But the AIDS virus is 450 times smaller. So look at this. Ishant Sharma can go through that hole, man. If Ishant Sharma can go through the hole, what about Amit Mishra? Amit Mishra, if Ishant Sharma can go through that hole in the condom, Amit Mishra can all the more go inside the condom. That's why in an AIDS conference in Washington DC, several years ago, when all these doctors were talking, they said, how many of you can wear a condom and have sex with an AIDS patient? Not one of them raised their hand. But these same guys say, wear it and do it. The only safe sex there is to save sex for marriage. Now, I know I have a copy of a letter which an elder sister wrote to a younger sister. This elder sister went to church. She went out with a guy in the church. They didn't have sex, but they did everything else. But one day, this elder sister discovered that she had AIDS when she went to the doctor. And she said, don't make the mistake I made. You don't have to even go all the way to contract AIDS. The disease which shares a nickname with the governor of one of the states of the United States. The Terminator. Arnold Schwarzenegger. The AIDS virus. They have the same nickname, the Terminator, because there is no known cure for AIDS. Sex before marriage. Banning Song of Solomon. Okay. S-O. Again, we have another O here. Okay. O. Okay, I'll leave that O and I come to the N here. Not I, but him. Not I, but her recommending Song of Songs. It's again, we're talking about what makes a relationship work. Now, the book of Song of Songs, we talked with, there's a couple talked about, and each of them placed the other person before him. For example, look at chapter 8. Look at chapter 8. Now, it said, guys like to watch and touch. Guys don't like to talk. This is a real problem I'm talking about. This is a problem which every married man faces. Guys like to watch and touch but not talk. But here is a man who talks in Song of Song, chapter 8. Now he says, verse 13. Oh, you dwell, the man is speaking, verse 13, 8:13. Oh, you who dwell in the gardens with companions listening for your voice, let me hear it. He wants to hear his wife speak. How was your day? And then she talks about the cooking for half an hour, how she made the rasam. He listens patiently. Even though it's not really relevant to him, or even though there's nothing he can, even though in his mind he's thinking, okay, what on earth will I do with this information? He listens because he loves her. Because she is. Not I, but her. And I already told you, girls will love to hug and talk, but here is a woman who also wants to have sex, because that's something not all girls like enjoy, or that's not the priority list. But I told you, orgasm recommending recommending Book of Song of Songs. We see that as well. I mean, the man is really superb. He's not only talking about the parts of the body which men like to talk about, and we talked about it a lot. He talks even about other non-sexual parts of our body. For example, our teeth. Chapter 4, verse 2. Your teeth are like flock of shorn eaves that have come up from the washing, all of which bear twins. He goes to other parts as well. Then verse 1, your hair is like a flock of goats. Your eyes are doves. Okay, that's how it began. Your eyes, your hair, your teeth. That's why it's important to watch what she's wearing. Make a good compliment about the earring. I made a point on what she's wearing, about her earring. No, that's why in my 9 years of married life, I'm not a model for any of you. Don't think of me as a model. I'm far from it. I have rooms to improve when it comes to being a husband. But in some way, that's what I keep trying to do. I'm trying to express my love. I know my wife likes to listen. And I know I have a busy schedule. I have plenty of things to do, a message outline to prepare, run here and there, travel, book tickets, write that article. But still, I want to say, in some way, I want to place my wife before me. And as a result, we're born several poems. And I want to read some poems to you, just to, for you to hear this. And just for you men especially to get some good ideas as you get married and live with your wife. Okay, with you around, life's a breeze. This is for Ivan. In fact, it says for Ivan's eyes only. Okay, with you around, life's a breeze. With you around, I'll run around trees. With you around, I know what life means. With you around, I'm encouraged to get on my knees. Because prayer is my weak link. With you around, I'm encouraged to get on my knees. When you're away, I'm confused and I freeze. When you're away, I just can't where I put my keys. Some of you have seen the live telecast of this. When you came for the 9th anniversary, I came my way. When you're away, I just can't find where I put my keys. When you're away, I just eat too much jam, sugar and cheese. When you're away, there's no one who will embed me tease. Okay, that's getting really good. Okay, so I'll stop here. Words, they want to hear it. So not I, but him. Simple things like, I know a ministry almost came down. A ministry with about 500 full-time workers came down because the husband didn't do the little things the wife asked him to do. The wife would say, don't go there, don't talk here, don't go there. Simple things. But that man was egoistic. He wanted to do what his wife told him not to do. And that resulted in a major collapse. Place the other, and I want to tell you something. If what your wife asks you to do is not a sin, do it. It pleases God. And what your husband asks you to do is not a sin, do it. Because it's not about being you, it's about pleasing the other person. I also found, that it's basically about giving the other person importance. Now, I have found that givers get married quickly and also have a good married life. Smashing married life. Because marriage is about giving. The story of Genesis 34. What did that woman do? How did she qualify to be this daughter-in-law of Abraham? She not only gave water to the man, but also the camel. Givers make good marriages. You give your money, give your time, give your talent, be a good giver, you'll have a happy married life. Not I, but him. And not only this, the man repeatedly in 2 places, chapter 5 verse 1, chapter 4 verse 9, calls his wife a sister. Have you seen that? It's not a printing mistake. Chapter 5 verse 1, I come to my garden, my sister, my bride. First is my sister. Now, if you want her to be your bride, you first have to make her a sister. Some of you want to only the bride. A bride, okay, maybe the sex and all that, because you can only have sex with your bride. But sister is a talk. It's the wooing, it's the care, it's that concern, it's that warm look, it's that holding of hands. It's like, okay, I'll throw the waste, okay, I'll clean the toilet, it's okay, I'll press your legs. That's the sister act. So your wife should be your sister first. And then she becomes your bride. Not I, but him. I can go on and on. Okay. And then where are we? S-O-N-G. S. Okay, I'm not going to go into the G again. Okay, and I'm going to go to the S finally. S-O-N-G. I'm going to the word S. Swift action recommending Song of Songs. Swift action recommending Song of Songs. Chapter 5, verses 2 to 6. Shall we read that? Chapter 5. I slept, but my heart was awake. A sound, my beloved is knocking. Open to me, my sister, my love, my Tao. Oh my God, what poetry. My love, my Tao, my perfect one. Even when they translate, this is written in Hebrew, but even when they translate in English, it's beautiful poetry. My love, my Tao, my perfect one. My head is wet with dew, my locks with drops of the night. So the man is knocking the door basically. And what is the woman saying? Verse 3. I had put off my garment. How could I put it on? I had bathed my feet. How could I soil them? It's the same old typical problem, It's like, you're lying down in bed and you're in a duplex house. Your daughter asks for water and your wife says, you go get it. Because she doesn't want to get out of bed. And this woman didn't want to get out of bed to open the door because she loves her husband, she loves her boy, but she loves her pillow as well. She doesn't get up. My beloved put his hand to the latch. My heart was thrilled within me. Okay, she wanted to meet him. No, she loved him. She wanted to meet him. I arose to open to my beloved. My hands dripped with myrrh. My fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bowl. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and gone. My soul failed me when he spoke. Now sometimes, when you procrastinate, when you don't act swiftly, it can wreck a relationship. Swift to ask for sorry. Swift to forgive and forget. Swift. And this is another illustration to say that it's not like you will never have a fight in your wedding. They had a fight. This man was impatient. He could have knocked for a few more minutes, right? I could have stayed on there. But he knocked a couple of times, this girl didn't open and he went off. The girl procrastinated, the man was impatient, but that's how marriage is. You've got to live with your imperfections. And that's why, even when you choose a life partner, you're not going to get anybody without any imperfection. Some of them will be a little overweight, some of them will be a little balding, some of them maybe are not as